You're too young for Public Enemy. You don't.
I know who they are. Okay.
You know who they are. All right. Who's the guy with the clock? Quick.
Yeah,
That's right.
You got me.
I know. I knew it. All right, we're live. I just shared.
Awesome.
Come on in, everybody. We're doing our sharing. You share. Everybody, sharing is caring, as I say to my daughter all the time. And then she says, sharing is not caring.
It's a good argument. It's a good counter.
And it's just no way for me to argue with that.
I mean, how do you?
How do you argue with that? You really can't.
Can't argue with it.
Come on in, everybody. Welcome back to the Holler Hour. Tuesdays, Thursdays, we're going to talk about some stuff going on in our state today. As always, you can find us at tnholler.com. We are at the TN Holler on Twitter and Facebook. We also have all of these hollers all throughout the state. And I will, again, as always, say that your contributions are what make this all possible. We really do appreciate it. You help us fund what we do. You help us keep going, holding them accountable. It really is essential. So if you're chipping in a few bucks a month, thank you so much. If you're not yet, just encourage you to maybe just a few bucks a month goes a really long way, keeps us going. So thank you genuinely to everybody who has done that, because we've grown a lot in the last 2 years and we hope to keep growing. We have some fun things planned. And Cassie, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. My dog has a very slightly injured ankle, and so she is not supposed to. She's fine. She's really fine.
Right.
The main thing is that she can't run around and play fetch for 2 weeks, so she's going kind of nuts.
Oh no! All right. Well, I have a dog that I have one dog that loves fetch and one that doesn't.
Oh, okay.
So today we're going to talk about a couple of the things that have happened here in our state. The first thing that we just kind of want to get off our chest more than anything else is the ridiculousness that goes on in our legislature. For instance, these resolutions to honor Candace Owens and Tomi Lahren. Tomi, I don't know.
Tammy.
They both moved to Tennessee. Ben Shapiro moved to Tennessee. Everybody's coming to Tennessee to pollute the airwaves here. And so we just pointed out that that's pretty ridiculous that Tomi is, I'll figure out which it is eventually. I don't mean to disrespect her name. I just genuinely don't know, is moving here and getting honored by William Lamberth, wasting our taxpayer dollars on that. What has she done to deserve that when there are so many other people more worthy? She was getting honored while Dolly was getting honored, which is absolutely absurd. So we posted about that. One thing I will say about Tomi, though, is she is willing to engage on social media. So she asked if we were jealous, and the answer is no, we are not jealous. If this supermajority offered to honor us, I would hope something would be wrong. We would be like, no, thank you.
We would be doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. You do not want to be honored by this supermajority. But what I do want to point out, because I do think it's quite funny, and I doubt they do this, Tomi is, I'm going to say it's Tomi. I think it's Tomi. I'm going to go with Tomi until someone correct. You think it's Tomi?
I thought it was Tomi.
Tomi
I don't know.
Says she's pro-choice. Stay out of my guns and you can stay out of my body. So they honored a pro-choice commentator. She also went on to say once upon a time that she can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say she's for limited government, but think that government should decide what women should do with their bodies. Imagine that. So she essentially called them hypocrites. Meanwhile, they're out here honoring her. I just find that so awesome and fascinating. I'm not trying to lift her up.
She's also fascinating.
She's also for gay marriage, which, you know, I mean, I doubt they know any of this stuff. They just know like liberals don't like her. So let's troll them and do this and say this, right? So, you know, I know that I'm not trying to say that she's a great person. She is not. You know, we definitely are not fans of hers, but
anything to be contrarian, honestly, is kind of her vibe.
Yes, absolutely. So I thought that was pretty fascinating. It was.
Yeah, we need to reach out to Representative Lamberth and see if he has a comment on that. Like, what is his response to to honoring?
I promise you, be asking him about that when I go there.
Yes,
on Thursday.
This was Resolution 351 by Leader Lamberth. A resolution to congratulate Tomi Lahren on relocating to Tennessee.
Got
Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move adoption of HJR number 351.
Leader Lamberth moves adoption. Properly second. Mr. Clerk, any amendment's been filed.
He does not want to be saying it out loud.
Thank
I
you, Mr.
know.
Speaker. I have a new
Yeah, the backstory there is he initially put it on the consent calendar, which so everybody knows the consent calendar is like they hope to get it through without having to vote on it. And everybody just says, okay, we all consent, but the Democrats bumped it. So then it had to be said out loud. And there it was. And Candace Owens, she'll be getting honored next time. And Ben Shapiro was already honored. So, it's all just gross, waste of taxpayer money. It's only intended to troll. It's the kind of thing Micah Van Huss used to do. And here is Lambert doing it. And then, as if that wasn't enough of taxpayer dollars being wasted, we also had Terry Lynn Weaver apparently deciding that she was the next American Idol. So here she was singing.
This
the
is how
Star
you get
Spangled Banner.
discovered, right? Isn't this the best way?
Verse of our national anthem that many people
I like how
do
she
not even recognize.
asks everybody to stand
that it
up for her.
exists. And I was like this, I'm going to ask you to stand.
Stand up,
I'm gonna
everybody.
ask you to stand.
By the way, there's zero doubt that she introduced this just so she could have this moment.
That is so true.
When free men shall stand.
I'm told that Gloria Johnson was kneeling for this.
Oh, I wish we could see that.
I know. I'm really mad that Gloria didn't get footage
Dang.
of herself kneeling
Oh,
for that. Gloria, we're very upset with you. If you're watching, how dare you not
Did
take a selfie of
someone
kneeling?
has to have like a picture or a video of that somewhere.
Yeah, I
Even
mean,
if it's by
Gloria
accident.
kneeling, like that's a sight. Like Gloria's a tall person.
She's a very tall person.
Yeah,
Like,
so if you see her kneeling, like chances are someone got a picture. If anybody got a picture of Gloria kneeling,
we want that.
we will pay big money for that.
That is
Please reach
fantastic that
out.
she did that.
So good. So good. I just, there's no question. Terry Lynn's like, how do I sing on the House floor? I know. I'll introduce the Star Spangled Banner.
She actually had this. So I don't know if you saw this, but so I pulled the the video of that from the like committee live stream or whatever, or from the House floor live stream on the website. And right before that, before Natalie Allison started recording, she like kind of prefaced it by talking about how like 13 years ago when she joined the legislature, she had this really good friend who asked, when she was going to pass her first bill, if she could, I don't know if this person was joking or what, but I think it like put a bug in her ear where it was like,
wait, was this
when
her
you go
first
up
bill?
there? No. I'm sorry. This was this is in the past when she first was elected.
That would have been
like she had this. that would be hilarious for so many reasons. But no. So this was 13 years ago. Anyway, so this guy who was like, I don't know, seemed like kind of a mentor or whatever, like told her like, well, when you go up there to pass your first bill, like see if you can find a way to sing it.
Wow.
And she was like, and so when in her preface, she was like, and now 13 years later, here I am.
Oh, she's been there 13
singing
years.
this bill.
My goodness. She has been there way too long.
But Justin, isn't that how you get discovered? Isn't that like the best way to do it?
I guess so. And by the way, there are two American Idol finalists or top 24 that are from Tennessee. One's from Franklin and one's from Columbia. They're both great. So there are some good singers in Tennessee.
For
Terry
sure.
Lynn is not necessarily among them. Although I will say, I'll give her credit. Like it was better than I would have imagined it would be.
She doesn't have a bad voice. I think, I don't know. Just like,
A mess.
Won't go into it. It's hilarious regardless. So
well, let's go to the eastern side of the state right now. Today in the East Tennessee, our friends over by ETSU are having a demonstration in support of Coach Shea and the Bucks. They lost their coach because he stood with the kneeling players. As I think most people know by now, the Tennessee legislators had sent a letter saying basically this will not be tolerated and encouraging them to force them to stand. And they got what they wanted. They got this coach forced out, Coach Shea. They had help from boosters locally who spoke up. They took back their cars that they had loaned the coaches, which, I guess it's okay to loan coaches cars, but players, God forbid, they should even make a dime, which that's a whole other issue. So now they have a new coach. His name is Desmond Oliver. I don't think it's wrong of us to note that he's a black coach with this situation going on. There are locals who have said that doesn't make it okay. Obviously a tough spot for him to be in. He's a UT assistant coach who is now going to come over to ETSU. And, the question, people had questions. I want to share a couple of clips from the coverage of this in East Tennessee. The first one is it's from the NAACP president, and this is WCYB had a clip of her basically talking about the new hire.
There was racism going on and it was systemic, and we're trying to bring awareness to that. We don't want you to bring in an African-American coach and try to make it seem like, oh, well, we gave you what you wanted, everything is okay now, because it's not about that. It's about equality, it's about equity, and it's about not having these issues even arise in the first place.
Right. And so, at the press conference, which he's there at that podium, he spoke for about an hour. I mean, I tuned in and out. I was just waiting for the questions, because the question that I had, and I think most people have, is, did they tell you not to let your players kneel? Did you have to make promises if this situation arises that you will not allow that you will not stand with your players? Seems fairly obvious that they must have, right? Because the last thing they want is for this to happen again. So how are they going to avoid having this happen again? Well, they probably wanted, the perfect situation would be find a black coach who says he's not going to let this happen again. And the question for coach was, did you have that conversation? Right when he finished his hour-long speech, he was ushered away by brass at the school, away from that perfectly good podium where he clearly could have taken questions.
Yeah.
And he was ushered to a more controlled environment. Now, he did get asked some of these questions, and good on Casey from WCYB for getting the question in there. But as you'll see here, coach had it ready that he was going to dodge this question, and that's what happened.
Will you do if your players next year say they want to kneel during the national anthem?
I said, in my opinion, the most powerful form of expression is to communicate.
Players next year say they want it during the national anthem.
Pause it.
I said, in my opinion, the most powerful form of expression is to communicate.
I mean, right off the bat, like, I'm going to let him finish. The most powerful form of expression is to communicate. Like, you're just telling me, okay, here comes some word salad.
Exactly.
I mean, that is like, what does that mean, coach? Like, that's not,
yeah.
And then he goes on to basically say, I told them to go talk about their feelings with other people. He does not answer the question.
So I said, how about this? Take 2 weeks. And during these 2 weeks, I said, on your Zoom calls for class, in your dorms, I want you, when you see people who don't look like you, that I want you to engage in real detailed conversation about what's going on in the world. It's going to be uncomfortable. And I said, I want you to speak from the heart of how you feel, and then let them talk. Our players are kind of like, that's kind of corny, coach. But they did it. And they came back a week later and said, coach, we had some unbelievable Zooms where we had kids in our class crying.
All right. So, I just want to be clear. This guy's in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to attack Coach Oliver. Tough spot. Kind of wish he wouldn't take this job, frankly, after what's gone on, but the real animosity and anger should be directed towards the brass at the school that didn't support him, or the last coach, and has put him in this situation. Remains to be seen what's going to happen with recruiting. And, half the players are leaving. There's going to be a press conference tomorrow, I believe, where players and Democratic legislators are going to talk about, I'm not sure what, but we will obviously be tuning in for that. But, I think at the end of the day, the message here is really to athletes throughout the country who are considering coming to Tennessee to basically say, you are not free to express yourselves here. And if you do express yourselves here at public institutions, you can expect to have the long arm, not only of the school, but of the law, of legislators in Tennessee coming down on you. And that's the lesson here.
Yeah. I think it's really important and really well said. And just, I'm so glad that you have been covering this and focusing on this. It's so incredibly important. And I agree. I agree with what you said about this new coach. I think, it would have been nice if he hadn't taken the job, but the ire should 100% be directed at, the at the folks at ETSU, and as you said, and the legislators that put all that pressure on and wrote the letters to them, the folks that you cornered in the elevator the other day.
That's perfect segue. Thank you for doing that.
Anytime.
Let's segue to the next video, because I did have a chance to talk to two of the senators who signed a letter pressuring the coaching change. And it was a while back, but we haven't had a chance to go over it on this show. So I would definitely like to talk about it here. This was last Thursday. I went to the legislature and had a chance to catch up with Senator Rusty Crowe and Senator John Lundberg, both of who are the senators in the area where ETSU is, who had signed a letter telling schools to prohibit their players from kneeling. And that definitely contributed to the pressure that ousted Coach Shea. So let's watch some of that.
Senator Crowe, are you happy to see Coach Shea get pushed out? Are you happy about that?
No, I'm never happy to see anyone lose their job, but I understand he resigned.
So right there, he goes right to, I knew he was going to do that because, they've made it very intentional that no, Coach resigned, right? So the deal they made with Coach was he's going to get his money for 2 years, good money, $300,000, $400,000 over 2 years, probably health insurance, good money, but the paperwork says he resigned. So they are able to say, oh, he resigned. So anytime anything comes, oh, he resigned, they came to us, he resigned, he felt it wasn't his time. But we all know, anybody who's paying attention knows this man was forced out. And part of how he was forced out was pressure from senators and legislators writing a letter to the schools, which, in coordination with boosters taking their cars back, it just made for an untenable situation. So of course, Rusty Crowe goes right to, no, he resigned, but I knew he was going to do that. So, I was ready for that.
Right.
Yeah, he got pushed out though. Boosters, you're putting pressure on him. So you weren't satisfied.
We didn't put any pressure
No
to
pressure.
fire him. I don't think so. I think the letter just sent the message that we should be honoring our flag and our nation.
Yeah, and sending a message is pressure, and they want to make this about the military and the flag. They want to take the protests of Black people who are hurting and make it into what they want it to be. So no, we're going to tell you what your protest is about. This is what your protest is about, and we're going to decide that for you. Which, I think it's fair to say is its own form of supremacy, which is how this video
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Transferring, are you worried that?
And by the way, he gets into the elevator. And a lot of times at the legislature, I don't get in the elevator, because if I get in the elevator, then people are going to leave that I don't get to talk to because it takes me like a good couple minutes to go up and down the elevator. I try to save that for a special occasion. When I saw Lundberg was getting in the elevator with him, that became a special occasion.
Struggle for transfers? You guys worried about that, either of you? Both the senators?
Moving right on in there.
Yeah, he was not thrilled that I got on there.
You can see his
public
face
elevator.
right there.
He's like, is this really happening right now?
Black players are going to not want to come?
I don't think so.
Nice and quiet.
So we'll have
Intimate
a coaching staff, and a new coach, and I'm sure they'll recruit as they should. We've always had a great basketball team, and I know we'll continue to have that.
Why didn't either of you go talk to the players?
Why didn't they go talk to the players? I mean, that's the bottom line, right? Why didn't they go talk to the players?
But they know, and they never do. They never do.
This is something that I feel like there's no defense for. We don't need to watch this whole thing. I just maybe wanted to get us into the elevator.
It's so good. If folks haven't seen this yet, definitely go check it out. If we're not going to play the whole thing here, but yeah.
So basically, ask them questions. They had no answers, but they did get pressured. He did get pressured, and it came from these guys. And you got to ask yourself, if you're coming to school here, why are you going to school in Tennessee, especially at ETSU? And, that job is poison, in my opinion, for a long time. I wish Coach Oliver luck. I don't blame him, but I think it's fair to say he probably had a conversation about this, and I wish they'd be forthcoming about that.
Yeah. I mean, if he's giving that, as you said, kind of word salad answer that's super vague, incredibly vague answer. I mean, that definitely seems like it had to have been a conversation, and it's just the whole situation is just really unfortunate. He's in a tough spot, but it's it's just these people just don't respect freedom of speech whatsoever. Right. Right to protest with the First Amendment, just don't respect it unless it's something that aligns with their values, which we saw, at the anti-mask or anti-vaccine, some sort of like COVID, denier protest at the Capitol the other day. They were like flooding the halls and it was totally fine. Not much of a police presence. And, of course, all of that's fine. But then when it's, protest of something they disagree with, then they just, the First Amendment is just completely thrown out for.
I just want to say this guy Frank is giving us his phone number.
Should we call?
Frank, if you want to get involved here, just ask us for the link on Twitter or Facebook. This is not a call-in show. This is a Zoom-in show. I don't want you to think
and we
we're
don't call
you.
You anyway.
Yeah, but you got to just message us for the link. If you want the link, you can jump in.
Message on Facebook or Twitter. Or even
Twitter,
Instagram.
yes.
You can't message on YouTube, unfortunately.
Yes, so I just don't want you to think we're ignoring you, but we just don't have the capacity to make a phone call on here.
We do not.
Or else we would, because, we don't get a lot of people jumping in. Happy to have it happen. Friendly or,
anytime.
Or not.
Tomi Lahren.
But it is, it does bring up the free speech thing. And that's kind of the thing that seems like is at the core of so many of these issues right now, whether it's social media, censorship, quote unquote, or, corporations getting involved with politics, and McConnell now suddenly is against corporations having any kind of voice in politics, which is quite shocking, or then there's the anti-LGBT slate of hate, which is in a lot of ways becoming a speech issue, because we're seeing that at least two bills. One is the Griffey book banning bill, and then the other is the opt-out, the LGBT curriculum opt-out bill, which, basically treats anything that mentions LGBT people as like, stigmatized. You have to warn parents that you're going to do that. I mean, it's really ugly. And, the only out Republican, Eddie Manis, spoke up about it this week, and he gave this impassioned plea that completely fell on deaf ears by his own caucus.
If you're reading a play or whatever and there's reference to an LGBT character, can we opt out of that as well?
That this would allow that. When we start getting outside the scope of the family life and sex ed, it is seeping in.
Seeping in. Such an insidious way to phrase it. So ugly. Deborah Moody, shame on you.
To other subjects, sexual orientation and gender identity, we need to have that covered.
It just concerns me what we're saying to some kids. We need a permission slip from your parents. The stigma is that you're a disgrace. That is very concerning to me.
I mean, it absolutely is that. That's exactly right. That is the stigma. And, my question for Eddie Manis, who in these moments seems like, one of the more reasonable Republicans, like, do you ever wonder, Eddie, if maybe you're on the wrong side of all the other stuff too, when you're standing shoulder to shoulder with people who are willing to do this to you and dehumanize you like this and stigmatize kids? I just wonder, Eddie, if you ever second guess yourself for being with them on other things too.
Yeah, I wonder that as well, just about like more conservative members of the LGBTQ community. And I'm just like, as an LGBT person myself, like it's just so incompatible with it's dehumanizing. And it's like, I don't know. I would love to hear his answer to that, because I don't know how he can, like, just from a human level, like, maintain that sort of dissonance just within his own ideology and his own mind. I genuinely would love to hear his answer, because that's something that just like does not compute, does not make sense to me whatsoever.
Right. So, I one day would love to hear Eddie say that. In fairness, I mean, I think it's nice to see him speaking out, willing to speak this truth to them. He's in a position, I think, more so than most Democrats, to get the message across that, they're dehumanizing people. And so, I wish him luck in that endeavor, but we've just seen them focus so much on these anti-LGBT bills, the slate of hate. They seem unleashed. They seem emboldened. Every single day it's something else. with this stuff. And, he even goes on to say, let's keep going. Cause he even goes on to say, like, this seems to be all we're focused on here.
And it seems like we're talking about it a lot. I just don't want the Education Instruction Committee to be known as this. I can't express that enough.
Cheerleader Weaver.
Cheerleader
Oh my
Weaver. I mean, I
God.
just kept that in there because
I know.
goodness, Terry Lynn. Like I was like, should I take this out? No, I'm gonna leave it in. 'cause
Nah.
She literally just called somebody else her own name.
As passionately as you feel, I feel for parents. They want to know that they know.
She looks like like Kathy Bates,
Yeah.
straight out of a movie. Like, I mean, it's the bad. I don't know. It's just so ugly. It's so clear.
It's so otherizing. Like, it's just like, it's like put them. We had this conversation with Chris Sanders, a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the anti-trans legislation. It's just like the amount of like othering that they're trying to do to, especially trans kids, but all of the LGBTQ community. It's just like, trying to put them to the side, to like do everything to not normalize it.
Right.
Which, that the way that pervades into culture and like affects, LGBT kids is just so incredibly harmful and dangerous. And it's just like, I mean, Eddie made that, very apt comparison. It's the same concept. So yeah, it's really, really disgusting. I will say though, and all of this really depends on like how the people that are pushing back against this, like, continue to push back, as strongly as possible against this really hateful legislation. I do wonder, I mean, I think this is relatively obvious, but I think that hopefully they realize that they're almost like in the death throes of this like cultural battle, because especially with like transgender like issues like that, like, LGBTQ issues is still very much an issue. It's still something we need to push on like as a whole, but in terms of like gays and lesbians and stuff like that, a lot of that has been a little bit more culturally settled, and now it's like kind of reckoning with like the transgender aspect of the whole fight. And so I hope that like we can just push through this, and that it becomes something that's just so much more normalized for the trans community 5-10 years down the line, because and that's why they're reacting this way with all these
the language
hateful
that
bills.
they speak is money. So I think it's on Nissan and Amazon and companies like that to stop writing letters, to start taking action, stop supporting the people who vote for this stuff. That's the language that they speak. That's what's getting their attention in Atlanta and Georgia right now when they're moving the All-Star game. Like, they need to start paying the price in a real way here in Tennessee also. That's why I think this ETSU issue is a real chance, for people to see their true colors and take some action at the, when it comes to athletics. I think, Black athletes have some real power there and where they go. And I hope they use it. I really hope that's the message that comes across, is like, you can actually affect some change just with where you go to school. And there is a direct line between, I'm moving this comment, even though I want to talk about that comment in a minute, but there's a direct line between the pressure at ETSU and the KKK statue in our Capitol, and, the letter being sent, the run over a protester bill, the felonizing camping protesters who sleep at the Capitol. Like, this is racism, and, it's systemic. It permeates our entire state in terms of leadership. I'm not saying everybody's racist here. I'm not saying that there's not great people in Tennessee, but it just so happens that the people in charge are the ones that are prone to say things like fried chicken comments to each other. We've had 2 of those, and so they need to start feeling that that there are consequences. Like, like my child's going to keep doing the same thing until she sees that there are consequences, and the consequences need to be that they start to lose recruits. They start to lose businesses. That stuff needs to really start happening in a very real way, or else this is going to keep going on and on and on. So, that's why I feel like the message needs to be like, and if you're not going to, if you're an athlete out there and you're like, hey, you know what, I'm not going to go to Tennessee because I don't like what's going on there, or even these students that are transferring, like, be vocal about it.
Explain tell them why.
Yeah. Like, don't just scratch it off your list. Like, publicly say, I am not going to Tennessee, and here is why, and the more people do that, the more people are going to realize, like, yeah, these guys are out of control. Because right now, this Tennessee legislature, this Tennessee Republican supermajority is completely out of control. They're in a race to the bottom. who can have the most extreme bill. They support each other's garbage. There are no consequences. Like, somebody has to rein these guys in, and hopefully part of that is seeing what's happening. So we're trying to do our part to show you what's happening. But at the end of the day, it's going to take more than that. And, there are a lot of different ways, places pressure can come from. And I hope it comes from all of them.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that the concept of, well, at least not necessarily students going to ETSU, but the ones that, half the team that is leaving. I mean, it's the same organizing principle that like goes into like, creating unions, and I mean, and when it comes to, organizing, if you work for, I mean, they're, obviously Amazon is in the midst of a huge fight, in terms of, its employees wanting to unionize, which is fully support and is incredibly important. And for employees here, not only is that something that, I think that you should try to do for yourselves at your workplace, but also it's something where you would then have more leverage and more power as workers to influence your company to be like, hey, we should not be donating money. Also, in addition to us wanting better conditions, like the company shouldn't be donating to, this GOP, these GOP leaders in the state legislature who support bigoted bills. Just like more worker power just has so many positive ramifications, both for yourself and for, the environment in your community as a whole, because you can have that kind of influence over where you work. And those are the people that are funding the shitheads at the Tennessee state legislature. So, just having more power to have influence over that stuff is incredibly important.
Sharice is asking, what do we mean by All-Star game? The All-Star game, the Major League Baseball All-Star game has been pulled out of Georgia because of their Jim Crow 2.0 voter suppression bills. And then they moved it to Denver, Colorado now. So they lost $100 million in tourist revenue by losing the All-Star game. And that's a very real consequence. That's why they're so angry. That's why you have Mitch McConnell saying absurd things like corporations need to stay out of politics while he fills his coffers with their money. They're losing it. They're telling people to boycott baseball, Coca-Cola, Delta, rather than realize, hey, maybe we've gone too far. They've decided, no, everybody else has lost the thread. So, it's very clear. I'm looking at Frank's message right now.
At Frank?
Emailed you 3 weeks ago, looking to file a lawsuit. Timmy Crow. All right, I'll read that later. Okay. Well,
yeah, that's
like
the same guy that was on YouTube. So if you,
I'll look at that later. Frank, I won't ignore you. I promise. It just doesn't seem like this is the moment for it, but I'm going to take a screen grab of your comment and we're going to move on. And Sharice, that's what's going on. I want to talk about Linda's comment before we go here. She's saying, with all the conservative legislation, more conservatives will move to Tennessee, while those of us who are open-minded will move out or be forced to. So, I think this is a concern that I have in the back of my mind, and I just want to address it. Like, I do think sometimes, like, maybe us talking about how horrible things are here is going to get people to leave or not come. And, I do want to say Tennessee's a great place to live. And I just hope that the message is that we need to stand and fight, not run away. I mean, and think about if we left America because, Trump was president, like, that's just all the wrong people benefit from that. So, I think it's about standing and fighting, and, Tennessee is worth it. And if you grew up here, especially, or, your family's here, like, it's got to be worth it to you to make this a better place. If you have kids here, which I do, you got to want to make this a better place. And that, I hope, is the takeaway from the work we do at the Holler. It's like, there's a lot of work to be done and let's do it. Not, oh boy, this is beyond repair, let me get out of here. And I understand the impulse, but, I just hope that you'll think about it and understand that, there are people here that agree with you, that want to fight with you. And I hope you'll join us.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And obviously it's to varying degrees. There are a lot of states that do, things a lot better than we do in a lot of regards. However, there are massive problems wherever you go. There could be a Holler in every state. You could be in the most progressive or whatever, area of the country, and there would still be a lot to holler about. So I think that, I'm not trying to compare and say that, like, as Justin said earlier, is 100% correct. The legislature is for sure out of control. It is definitely on another level that's like not comparable to, I don't know, a more left area of the country. But I think that, regardless of where you are, there's like a fight to be had. And so, if you happen to be here, then just like join in and make this a better place, because it doesn't happen without people pushing for it.
Absolutely. Just as a couple final things, I think I want to note that Odessa Kelly jumped into the primary against Jim Cooper. That'll be an interesting race to watch. She said she's running on Medicare for All and the Green New Deal. Green New Deal, Cooper supports Medicare for All. He's had a sort of interesting history with, but has not signed on to the bills there. So, that'll be interesting to watch that unfold. I know, a lot of progressives are excited about Odessa Kelly. Obviously Jim has a lot of money. Jim, has been on the right side of a lot of things too, and maybe has some progressive work to do. But I think it's good to have primaries, and it's good to have progressives jumping into these fights. She has the support of the Justice Democrats. What did you want to say about Odessa?
Oh, I mean, I agree with what you said, about her. I think that the work that she's done in Nashville is just phenomenal, quite frankly. And she got a lot of concessions from Amazon when they moved here. Just having like money, go back towards the communities, as opposed to, having it all just go towards development that would like have, negative ramifications on established communities within Nashville. That's like she was the executive director of Stand Up Nashville.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, just look into the work that she's done. She's done a lot of really fantastic work.
We have had her on here. We have offered to have her on here, by the way, and I think she'll come on.
Right.
So that's something to look forward to.
But yeah, she definitely seems like a cool person. And I agree that regardless, primaries are a healthy thing for democracy. Nobody's entitled to any seat ever in elected office. So anybody's replaceable. And, I'm not trying to put my thumb on the scales with that comment, but I just, I think that regardless, primaries are a healthy thing for democracy.
I think so too. And the thing that I think, we'll cover it obviously, and interested to see what happens, but I do hope that there's a debate there at some point, and that Jim takes it seriously enough to, have that happen, because I think it's hard for us to complain about it not happening from the Republicans when it doesn't happen from the Democrats either.
Absolutely.
Just two more quick videos for the people that are still here. Speaking of people that need to get replaced, there are bills that happen in the legislature that we don't hear about because they just die quick deaths. And, we're trying to focus on lifting those up. One of them was Sarah Kyle's bill to raise the minimum wage in Tennessee. Just so everybody knows, the minimum wage can't go up in your city because of the law in the state that doesn't let that happen. So these small government Republicans have a big government law to preempt minimum wage in your city from going up, which is not small government. So Sarah Kyle brought a bill to raise the minimum wage, I think, to $12 an hour from $7.25, which is where it is now. And it's worth knowing that we have the highest percentage of minimum wage workers in America. It died like 8-1. I think it got one vote from Senator Akbari. And Senator Bill Watson is one of the guys on that committee. So I saw him at the legislature and I said, hey, why'd you do that? And here's what he did.
Why were you no on the minimum wage increase? Highest percent. You could survive on $7.25 an hour, bro?
He laughed. He laughed in my face. All I did was ask him, why were you a no on the minimum wage increase? And he laughed, as though it is so absurd that we could raise the minimum wage even a little bit higher when it hasn't gone up in over a decade. If it was keeping up with productivity, it would be in the 20s by now. Some say it should be 15 everywhere. Some say, maybe 15 in some places, 12 in some places, but the idea that you could even raise it a little bit is funny to Bill Watson, who I believe is a millionaire. And, it just goes to show how little they actually care about working people in this country.
They really need to I wish that they genuinely were forced to do exactly what you said and live on $7.25 an hour, a 40-hour a week wage, or to try to juggle that with two other jobs in order to make ends meet, because $7.25 an hour is not enough to live on. Like, it is disgusting. The audacity, the just sheer oligarchic nature of that is, I mean, it's 100% systemic, within our politics, and especially within conservative politics, but it's really disgusting.
It really is. So let them know that that they did that. There are some other bills too, like Gloria Johnson's paid leave bill, which was killed by Republicans. These 5 just killed paid leave for state employees, which is interesting considering Governor Lee had proposed it in 2020, but then it just kind of went away. He had said, this is what we're going to do, and then didn't do it. And when he did that, Esther Helton, who is the Public Service Committee chair who killed Gloria's bill, this is what she had to say when it was Governor Lee's. She said, we've all experienced scenarios where we have had to choose between work and family. This initiative ensures our state employees will no longer have to make that difficult choice. And I am honored to serve as a co-prime sponsor of this legislation. And then she killed it. What happened, Esther?
Disgusting.
I will be asking her that on Thursday if I
Good.
see her.
Good.
And it's just really gross how little they seem to care about working Americans. We'll keep hollering at them. We hope you'll join us, amplify the things that we're putting out there. You are the holler too. We say it as much as we possibly can because we mean it. We're only as effective as you help us be. So thank you for joining us. Tuesdays, Thursdays, 2 p.m. Follow all the hollers, and we'll see you on Thursday.
See you then.